A to the K.
To the K. To the K.
Hello, one and all. Welcome to the A to the K Wrestling Show. Joining us today is an absolute trailblazer for women's wrestling, a champion in WWE, AEW, and now a best-selling author of Hell in Boots, Clawing My Way Through 9 Lives, the one and only Saraya. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. It's 6 days. Well, actually, I don't know when this is being released, but when we do this interview, it's 6 days away until release.
Yeah.
So.
That's it, yeah. So, first and foremost, as Carl said in the intro there, how does it feel to be an author? And I suppose, how did the idea for the book come about?
Yeah, it's actually pretty crazy because obviously, I've had people kind of tell my story or the internet tell my story for whatever reason. And I was like, you know what? Like, I would love to actually the movie was amazing. It was incredible, but it was a PG version. And I would love to show the nitty gritty of it, starting from when I was really, really young up until recently, And so I just wanted to get my story across. And then after I've been doing it for over 2 years, and it all started when, me and WWE had parted ways, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, I was a little nervous about what I was going to do in my future. I was like, what do I do now? That's all I've known, And then I was like, you know what? I just want to start putting pen to paper and actually getting my book done. Now I have the time, And it took 2 years because then I went to AEW. And so it was all over the place. But also I had a ghostwriter and she was amazing. She was really, really great. But she made me sound like I was out of the cast of Annie. And so I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to rewrite the whole thing. So it was a year for her to write it and then a year for me to rewrite it all. So yeah, it was a crazy process, but I'm really thankful that I got it done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You kind of touched on it then a little bit, but firstly, we've been lucky enough to get an advance copy of the book, and it literally blew us away, didn't it?
Yeah,
It is
Did you watch? Did you
read.
listen? Did you read it? Fucking hell, yeah.
we read it. We read it. But yeah,
awesome. You liked it?
It was so good, so good.
Yeah.
It's crazy with it. Well, it is dark, but it's crazy when you say is it good? It's it's your life that we're kind of critiquing, isn't it?
That's the thing.
It's just everyone is so critical of me all the time, right? And they're always waiting for me to fail. And when it came to the movie, I was the same way. I was like, oh my gosh, are people even gonna like this? Who cares about me? I'm always I always wonder. I'm always a little self-esteem issues, I guess, but I'm always just people are not going to care about my movie. They don't care about me, but it ended up being the #1 movie in the UK, when it was in top 5 over here in America. I mean, it was a smash hit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, great. I knew the movie was good. I just didn't know if people would even care to want to watch anything about me. So then when it comes to the book, I'm like, oh man, I'm at the stage in my career where I just feel like everyone hates me. So I'm like, people aren't going to care about my book and stuff. Well, they're not going to like it, but I'm like, whatever. It was very good for me to get it out and write it down. So I'm glad you guys liked it. I have got some good reviews so far. A lot of the men that I've spoke to have been I had to kind of put the book down a few times because it was getting quite intense, but in a good way. It was just oh my gosh, I need to let it sink in because it has a lot of moments where it's very up and down, and there's a lot of moments that I'm saving for the second book too because people are wondering certain stories or whatever. But I'm you need to let everything else sink in before I jump into other stories that need to be told. So
I think that's fair.
Yeah. But you guys enjoyed it. You're not blowing smoke
Absolutely.
up.
No,
100%.
Yeah, we've got it, and we were just messaging each other, weren't we? I'm up to this bit. Can you believe this and stuff? It was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, genuinely loved it.
But sorry, if you don't mind me jumping in, just while you mentioned the film, and you've sort of referenced it here, but in your book, you say that you never imagined people would be interested in a movie about someone like you, and you obviously you've mentioned how well the film did. Did that reaction to the film, did that play a part in your decision to go, actually, I want to write this book?
Absolutely. But then, again, I go up and down about how I feel like people are going to receive it or want it or, so the book came from like the movie, because obviously the movie was family friendly PG version and it was amazing. It was incredible. It was really, really great, really well written. But I'm like, okay, but I want to do something from my point of view, like my that someone else isn't writing for me, or a lot of people have an idea of who I am, and everyone has an idea of like all these controversial stuff that I went through and did and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I would love to tell again my side of the story, so that like the movie really helped me like push me in that direction, definitely. And coming back to wrestling definitely helped me want to write my story too, because it's an intense fandom these days. So I'm like,
it can be.
It's great.
Just a bit. So in the book, obviously, you talked about your upbringing as well. Like, we were both raised on council estates, and you mentioned having to sell your rocking horse just to kind of keep the lights on. How did kind of growing up in that environment sort of shape like who you are today after all your success, but obviously trials and tribulations?
Well, it made me a lot tougher. It definitely made me tougher, especially having my dad, I'm a daddy's girl for sure, but he was like more of a tough love kind of guy. And no, I appreciate that upbringing, because then once I started being able to, start doing well enough for myself, I could appreciate everything, and I still feel like at this point, everything could be gone tomorrow. So I'm very what's the word? Modest in how I live and how I like do things, because I was just raised that way. Like even now I'll still eat like the food that I was raised on, I love making friggin' chip butties and friggin'
Nice.
beans on toast and
pickled onion monster munch.
Beans on toast. Beans on toast is very controversial in the States, though.
Oh, I know. I don't get it. I'm like, who doesn't like a bean? But Americans do not like our food choices, but we love it. So who gives a fuck?
That's it. Exactly.
Oh, they get mad at me for dipping my pizza in mayonnaise. They get really mad about it.
I mean, that's just...
Well, over there, it's ranch, isn't it?
Ranch,
is it
ranch
or not?
Yeah, it's ranch.
They have Domino's to do garlic mayo, right?
No,
Yeah.
Totally ranch.
They get deeply offended. They're like, oh, that's disgusting. And I was like, listen, British people like mayo. Calm down.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't say we're known for our cuisine, but it's good.
We like
very beige, but it's good.
Yeah. So obviously, you do talk about the difficult times in your life growing up. It's a brilliant segue that from pizza to this, but anyway, you talk about the difficult times in your life growing up for both you and your family, and you go into elements of like your mum disappearing, and obviously at the time you're not knowing why, or later on when you were over in the States and you're on FaceTime to your mum and you're taking pills, and I just sort of I suppose wondered, like, considering how close you both are, how much of those sort of moments sort of strengthened your bond between you and your mum?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we've gone through a lot together. The whole family's gone through a lot together, but it just makes me, again, like it goes back to appreciating things. It just makes me, those moments makes me appreciate her so much more, and very thankful to be around and have each other, because my poor mom, she's been through like hell and back before she met my dad, and just her experience of life, and then, dealing with her mental health issues and all that kind of stuff. I'm just really, really grateful that she's around and happier than ever. It has strengthened us. It has strengthened us. She's my best friend. She's absolutely my best friend. My dog is like trying to come at me. There we go.
No, love that. I mean, growing up in a wrestling family, very similar to like the Hearts. Do you think you ever really had a choice? I know there was talk maybe becoming a vet, or is it always wrestling?
I tried to rebel a little bit. I was like, I've always been like obviously watching wrestling and loving wrestling and been around wrestling, but I was like, I can't do it. I wanted to be like someone different, because the whole family was doing it, and I was like, I could do something else. I could do, and I kind of was like trying to force myself into it. But in reality, I didn't really want to do all these things. I was just trying to be like a 13-year-old that wasn't trying to go into the family business, And then when Dad got me in the ring, I was like, okay, like I'm never doing anything else.
Love it.
So, as I mentioned before, about you have you've talked about some very difficult times in the book, and one of the particular moments, you've been really open about your experience for both you and Zach in relation to Todd. And I just wondered, with so many sort of deeply personal stories in the book, how did you approach sort of that side of it with your family? Was it sort of were they involved in the process, or was it more of a sort of you had to get their blessing before sort of sharing those stories that are sort of
No,
about the family?
Is great. My family are great at being open. I mean, my brother Roy has a book of all this stuff that he went through as a kid too, and so, my parents didn't do anything wrong. They were so protective that you can't protect us all the time, and it's unfortunate. And the reason why I wanted to speak about it is because, I mean, the stats of like how many kids go through that is insane. It's awful how common it is, and we can always try and protect people, but sometimes, especially back then in the 90s and stuff like that, we were much more like carefree on who we like let take care of our kids, and like we were running around in the street, like when I was a kid, running around in the roads and like around the block and everything like that until the lights came on. We just that's just how we were raised. They just couldn't protect us the whole time. So let me put my dog down. But yeah, I didn't get to speak to my family about it at all. I was one of those people. I don't feel like it's a British trait that we have where we're not super open about our feelings. We're usually just like, all right, we get over it and then we kind of brush it to the side and continue with life. We're not one of those people, especially our generation too. Everyone now like wants to speak about their feelings and stuff like that. But we're just raised so differently, and so I never spoke about any of this to my parents until I was around 29, 30 years old, a few years ago, and it only came up because my brother Zach was going through like a really bad mental health struggle, and a lot of it was stemming from that time of his life. And so he was like, Ray, I just need to talk about this, so he gives me a FaceTime, and then we finally like really open up to each other. And like, he was like, I feel like I'm crazy, and so we kind of validated each other in our experience that were happening. And like, I thanked my brother because in the book it shows that he was kind of taking the shots for me. He would in some capacity where he wanted to protect me, so he just dealt with it instead. And so like I just wanted to have that moment because it's awful and he shouldn't have to go through it too. But it's just like having each other in that moment was so. I'm weirdly thankful that I had my brother there to get us through that. I don't know how to explain it too well, but like
no, I totally get it. To be honest, like reading the book, like honestly, you like
understand why the bond is so close.
You get it, and absolutely so much respect for Zach and sort of like you say that sort of trying to protect his sister, and I genuinely cried at that part of it. Like it's a really heavy thing, but it's like you say, it really does show that bond between the two of you.
Yeah, and it is dark, and it is like a lot of the media are asking about that because it is it's rough. It's rough to read. It's rough to like for me and Zach to get across. I was on a Zoom call with Zach because I was like, listen, like this part of the book, yes, it's really tough, but we need to like talk through it, right? Because I want to get your experience in there too, and I really want to use this platform to help people. So like if I'm going to have a lot of followers and all that kind of fun stuff and a big fan base, I might as well utilize it in this perspective where like I can help people with whatever they're going through. So that was like one of them, like just as kids, I want to help people. So we sat down and we talked about it for hours, and unfortunately he had to do it twice because, with the ghostwriter, it just like, it wasn't good enough. Like, I'm like, people really, really need to know how this felt and what we were experiencing, right? So then when I was rewriting the whole book, like I kind of had to go through it with him again. And then he was like, and the whole thing about it is the reason why I didn't want to talk about it is my poor mom, she went through it as a kid with her stepdad, and telling people when she was older, like her mom didn't believe her, her sisters, her brother, no one believed her. And it was awful. And I remember how that took its toll on my mom. And so like, not that I didn't think they would believe me, but like I had that in the back of my head where I was like, I would rather just not talk about it or like, bring it up just in case. So Zach talked to my parents about it, and they were just like so incredibly supportive. And I got a text from my mom the next day, and she was just like, I believe you, Saraya. I'll always believe you. I love you. And that was enough for me. I was like,
Yeah.
that is enough. She knows what happened. And now, it's out there and she believes me, even though I don't think she would ever not. But I just love that validation there, that kind of like brought comfort. But yeah, talking about in the book, I spoke to my mom and stuff like that about it. Not about the situation, but like what the talking points are. And she was so great. She was just like, you're going to have to just get it out there. This is your book. Like, if you're going to tell like your story, you might as well tell the full thing. So she was extremely supportive, and like none of it paints my family in a bad light. I don't think everyone's amazing. We all come across like very close, which is what we are. We're a very close knit family. But unfortunately, we have to go through fucking hell together, and like that's what makes us so close now, is that we my dad always says like Beavises, they get knocked down but they always get back up again. Like it happens to us all the time. So it just makes us closer, and I can't wait for them to read it. I'm a little nervous for them to read it because I'm showing like my real feelings of how I was feeling in that moment, and it's like even the rocking horse, I was so mad at them about the rocking horse, but then I understood when I got older like why they had to sell it. I mean, we couldn't eat, we couldn't have the lights on.
Yeah, of course. I mean, your book's also packed with some very wild animal stories, from a stripper stealing your cat to Zaza and the great mouse infestation. Obviously, still a huge animal lover today. I'm just curious, what's the most chaotic thing that your pets have done recently?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so well, actually, I have birds. I have 3 dogs and stuff like that. And like the saddest thing that happened recently is I had like this little bird called Sunny, and he was my favorite. He was such a goofy little guy, right? And I had like this big bird called Daisy, who now lives with my ex, which good because she's a monster. So I opened the cage, and Sunny flew out, and he flew to Daisy. I love Daisy. I know she didn't mean it, but she grabbed his head and crushed it in front of me.
Oh.
And I was like, and it was the day after my birthday, and it was the worst birthday present ever. I was fucking devastated. I was like, it was just awful. So that's like the saddest, craziest thing. But no, my dogs are batshit crazy. The animals are batshit crazy. Like there's always noise happening in my house. Like right now, like they're asleep, and it's the first time because all morning they've been a freaking nuisance. But I can't yell at my animals because I love them too. They don't understand. They're just like, being an animal. So like I can't them too much.
Yeah.
So you chose Renee Paquette to write your forward for the book. And you two obviously have an incredible friendship, and obviously it comes across so much in the book as well. She says that you wear your scars, but you're not your scars, which I think it's a fantastic way of putting it, isn't it? To be fair. And as someone who's been run over by a car and then literally still had a wrestling match following it, is there any particular scar, either physical or emotional, that you sort of now look back on with a sense of pride, or even it brings back a happy memory?
You know what? Like I always say, everything that's happened in my life, I would not change. Even the really awful things, I would not change a thing. Because I'm proud of everything that I've gone through, every scar that I have, because it's just a reminder that, again, that's why the title is Clawing My Way Through 9 Lives. Like, I've had so many different lives. I'm like a freaking cat. I always land on my feet, eventually. But it's like, there's not one that I'm really like, yeah, I did that. No, it's every single one, because all of them are big deals, and it would have killed some people, and it nearly killed me. It did. And the fact that I got through it and I'm okay and I'm happier and healthier than I've ever been, it's just like I have a sense of pride through everything of my life. I've made some fuck ups, made some mistakes. Hang on, mother. I've made some mistakes, but I'm proud because now it's made me the person I am today. I'm a lot stronger, a lot wiser, and a lot smarter. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. No, I love that. You mentioned obviously your mum telling you about a psychic predicting your future. Said you're going to wear a uniform, have your name in lights, move. Yeah, a couple of times. So obviously, if you could ask the psychic one question today about your future, what would you ask?
What would I ask? Oh my God! First of all, I'd be like, "What the fuck? Can't warn me about this, bitch." I don't know. I feel like I speak to a lot of like I'm a spiritual person, so I speak to a lot of like mediums and stuff like that. But I mean, she was spot on with what she said, so I'm like, well, what next? Is why I'd ask her. What's next?
Yeah.
I'm curious then what you're saying about being a spiritual person. Do you think her sort of predictions being so spot on, do you think that's what sort of made you more of a spiritual person?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, my sister is also a medium too. She's a great
Oh, really?
medium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and my mom reads tarot. She's like really great at that. My sister is a hardcore medium. Like she is insane with the way she can predict stuff. It's like it blows my mind. It really blows
Yeah.
my mind. She's always so spot on. Like she would stop people in the street, like it was just incredible. And she doesn't do it as much now because it is a lot of like it's mentally exhausting for her.
Yeah,
And I
for
wish
sure.
she would though, because she has such a wonderful gift. But yeah, like so I believed in it from the get-go because my sister was just
Right.
insane. And my
Yeah.
mom would take me to spiritual churches and stuff like that. So I've always just been surrounded by that. And then like but also she didn't force it on me. Like my dad's a religious person and I didn't choose to be religious. Like that's
Yeah.
not something that I believe in or interested in, but I believe in spirituality. I believe that, we can't like I might sound like ooga booger a little bit, but like I believe in that kind of stuff. I really do. And
Yeah.
a lot of the time, like it is spot on. And like a lot of the time, like I was speaking to, you know, one of my psychics at the beginning of like January or whatever, because there's a couple called Bunny and Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll's a big country singer, and then Bunny is like this big podcaster. And she
Yeah.
introduced me to her, and her name was Paige, which is funny, but she predicted so many things, like so many things, and everything is coming true to fruition. It's like crazy. It's like, and I talk to her every couple of months now because she'll give me an update every few months, but it's pretty
Yeah.
freaking bizarre. It's crazy how spot on she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
No, it is crazy, like you say. So, obviously, you mentioned in the book. I'll probably say that way too much in this, but you mentioned in the book about hitting rock bottom, and you thought you'd lost everything around the time the sort of videos were leaked. And then you mentioned about calling your dad, and I think this is I really want to talk about this bit because you mentioned about being close with your family, and I think this is sort of one of them examples. And honestly, as a father myself, I'd love to be able to sort of it's an absolute masterclass in being a parent because
Yes.
obviously you speak to your dad and straight away he's just like it's not a big deal and and he just reassures you. So I just wondered in that moment how much did hearing his voice change the sort of trajectory of your recovery?
He saved my life. He really did. And it may sound over dramatic, but I know where my head was at in that moment. And I was like, if I upset my dad, again, I'm a big daddy's girl. I'm like, if I have shamed my family, if I've done this, if they're embarrassed by me, mama stuff, then I was just at the tipping point where it just needed that one more thing and I would be done. I was done. Like there was just so much going on in that year and a half and I could not take any more. And so I was like, my dad can make or break me right now, right? And that's a lot of pressure for a man. He didn't know he had that much pressure. But when he did call me, it was like he used a little bit of humor, which I like to use humor in a moment of like trauma. It's a traumatic response, I guess. But he was hang on, sorry, my dog Roxy, come here. Thank you. Anyway, so I was hiding in a bush outside of a grocery store, a shop, and so for some reason, after these tapes leaked, I just ran out the front door and just kept running and running and running. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I just didn't know what to do. And I get to this bush and I just hide in it because I felt like everyone was staring at me. I felt really awful. And I was just like, I was so humiliated. And I was like, I don't ever wish that feeling on anybody. It's awful. Yeah. It's really, really awful. And I just like, I didn't expect something like this to ever happen, So I was like, my gosh. So, my dad started calling me. Everyone's calling me. WWE's calling me. Everyone's calling me. And I'm just like ignoring it.
Yeah.
And then my dad answers the phone. And I was like, Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like crying to him. I was like, I'm so sorry. And he was just like, Rhea, stop. Right. And then he started going into how everybody has sex. Everybody has sex. You're just in the public eye. That's why, everyone wants to see you have sex. He was just like, so really great with it. He was just like, everyone has it. It's very normal, Saraya. Like, don't like feel bad about it. And then he said, hey, even it can probably make you more famous. Look at Kim Kardashian. And I was like, how the fuck do you know Kim Kardashian? I was like, that's crazy. So he was so supportive, and he was like, I love you and proud of you. It was a long phone call, but he was just telling me how much he loved me and how proud he was of me, and like to not let this affect me and that it's normal. Yeah, so he was really, really great. And so that like completely changed my mindset. Of course, I was still feeling humiliated and really sad, and I was feeling really bad about myself, and I was still like just in an awful situation currently. And so but in my head, it stopped me from being like, okay, I'm not gonna fucking kill myself today. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Then I spoke to WWE, and they were supportive too. They're like, Saraya, we know like it's happening. It's not your fault. It's okay, but let's get the statement out. And so like they sent me the sentence that they needed me to post, and then I just copy and pasted it and posted it on my tweet. And but they were really helpful. They were like, listen, we can try and take it down. It might be hard now, it's on the internet, but like we got you, we have you. And so it felt really nice to have that support from my family and also my place of work, because I was like, that both of those things could have gone away, but also it could not. Like I've done a bunch of media and everyone keeps talking about it, and they're just like people's moral compasses are different, but like everybody has sex, right?
Yeah.
And if you're mad about it, you're probably not getting it. But it's like people that were like mad about it, you're just like, why are you mad? Why are you mad about it? What is your thought process about being mad about it? And then you have the trolls that are just like making fun. And then I'm just like, I feel bad for you guys, not you two, but like the guys that are fucking trolling, because I'm just like, that's the one thing you're holding on to is me having sex. Like that's like so you're not getting any, right? You're not getting any. That's what it is. And because you would try and sleep with me in a heartbeat, motherfuckers. You would. It's just but it's the people that talk about it in a negative way. I'm just like, fuck off. Like whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me as much anymore. It did, but not anymore.
Yeah, understandably. And you know what? It is one of them, like you say, that sadly, there's a certain area of the internet, they'll always find something to complain about anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always finding that thing. They're waiting for you to do a little bit of a hiccup, and they'll attach themselves to it, and then that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck them.
Fuck them.
So obviously, it's easy to forget sort of just how young you were when you came into the WWE, and having such fame and such a spotlight at such a young age. And we recently interviewed a 17-year-old girl from the UK called Maddie Morgan, who she's a huge fan of yours, by the way, and she saved up 2 years of birthday and Christmas money to buy the Divas title. So I wanted to mention that because I suppose what I want to ask is, what advice would you give her or someone like her who may be trying to navigate the same sort of path that you've walked?
Don't film yourself having sex. Not just that, but no, I would say the same thing. What Dwayne said to me, and then I'll add a couple of extras, is like, you want to stay humble and hungry. Humble because you want people to be able to fucking work with you. Everybody across the board, not just your opponent, but everyone behind the scenes. You want to stay humble. You want to be grounded. Hungry because you do not want to get complacent. That's how you stay. That's how you get stale, and then you go down. You always want to strive for more all the time. Be patient because it doesn't come overnight. And then I always tell people to save their money, because when you start getting paid, it'll start burning a hole in your pocket, and you want to spend it on things. But it's just really smart to save your money. And always stand up for yourself. People hate when women do that.
No, love that. So we know the Rock's daughter Simone asked you for a selfie in WrestleMania 30 back in 2014. Fast forward now, a few years later, she's now the GM of NXT. Have you two kind of spoken? Yeah, have you guys spoken since? And how does it feel kind of seeing her step into the business?
Yeah, I haven't actually spoken to her in a while, but we do like each other's stuff and all that kind of, we keep up to date like that. But yeah, I'm really bloody proud of her, because she went from, being obviously Dwayne's daughter, so everyone was just kind of like had that pressure of her coming into the business, right? Everyone just assumed she's going into the business. So I'm really proud that she came in and she's kind of making her own path. Like Charlotte, for example, she's not letting like who her father is cloud whatever she's doing, or letting like they're both doing a good job of not being known as someone's daughter, which I love. They're like paving their own way. They're building their own career. They're shining their own light. And I'm really proud of both of them. I know I'm talking about Charlotte too now, but like just really proud of Simone. Like, she's amazing. She's getting more comfortable on the mic every time she's, on the camera. You can tell she's like having a good time. She's enjoying it. She looks beautiful. And I'm just so proud of her.
Yeah, sounds amazing. So obviously we spoke briefly before about the film, and obviously the storytelling process when it comes to films, they tend to take a bit of poetic license for the viewers. But you did mention in the book about how accurate they got things like your childhood home or moments like Dwayne actually being the one to tell you that you were debuting. I just wondered, are there any moments sort of from your story that you wish had made it into the film or had maybe been explored in a bit more detail?
No, I like the way it's done now. I wouldn't change it or add anything. I feel like they really nailed it. There's a couple of things that, like, weren't accurate, or like didn't happen. Like, Dwayne never met my brother. He still hasn't met my brother, So that scene where he's like Harry Potter, and they added that because I felt like they probably needed to sell the movie with having Dwayne in it, But luckily it done amazing, and I'm so thankful he did that. He put that in the movie. But no, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't add a thing. I wouldn't take away a thing. It was great the way it is. And but now that that movie's out, I was like, I can add, subtract, and whatever I need in my book. So whatever was missing, you can now read in my book.
Yeah. I think I like the way you put it before, that the film is like the PG sort of telling of it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a family friendly one. Mine's not very family friendly. Yeah. I can tell people, I'm like, listen, the book is gonna make you feel so many different emotions. It's gonna make you laugh, make you cry. It's gonna And then did you get up to the Drew McIntyre where he like helped me?
Like, is it gentleman the right word?
Yeah, he's a gentleman. He's a hero. You know what it is exactly, about? It's like, I've obviously known him for many, many, many years, right? And I sent him that chapter where he was on, and he really loved it. That's why he did like a quote from my book too. He's, like on the back of it. But he's a good guy. He's never changed. He's always been a sweetheart, and he's inspiring because, he had his first run in WWE and he kind of wasn't the way he is now. And then he got fired, came back, and I mean, while he was on the indies, he built himself so big where he's like undeniable, like star power. Yeah. And now everybody loves him. I'm so proud of him. He's like that amazing, like, he just has an amazing story. But yeah, going back to like back in Scotland, like, again, we had known each other, but like obviously I was very young, he's not trying to get to know me like that. He was protective of me, which is really sweet. And so with this guy who went and eventually got arrested for, child pornography and all that kind of stuff. He was like, he saw him, he overheard him say like, something creepy to me that wasn't appropriate for like a 13, 14-year-old girl, And he took that motherfucker and he took him in a room and I could just hear him muffled screaming, dude. He was just screaming at him, like fucking going off. And the guy never looked at me again. And I appreciate that because I had to deal with a lot with this guy. He was a fucking creep and he was sending me stuff and he was doing certain stuff. Like he was touching me, he was doing all these things. And as soon as Drew got wind of it, he was like, you're done. You're fucking done. I'm going to kick your ass. Like he threatened to beat his fucking, like he was insane to him. And I love it. Like the guy deserved it. But I really appreciated Drew because Drew was like, he was the star up in Scotland, and he was the biggest guy too, biggest, strongest, like, the coolest. And it just felt like, I had like a superhero that helped me for that second come in and rescue me from some fucking weirdo.
And that's the exact type of guy we need in the business, really, isn't it?
100% it is.
Yeah, do it for anybody. He's such a good guy.
Yeah.
So we saw you mention recently that you're considering moving out of California. Obviously, you've lived in the UK, Texas, Orlando, and now LA. Is there somewhere that you've got in mind where you want to kind of experience next?
Nashville. I want to go to Nashville.
Nashville, nice.
Yeah, nice. I want somewhere different, and I want land, and like Franklin or whatever area there's I mean, you can get a lot of land, and I want to get cows and horses. Like, I want to live peacefully on. Yeah. So, and it's less expensive. Living in LA, what a nightmare. Yeah. I don't know how I live in.
So the menagerie is going to increase then.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Love it. So you may have touched on this a little bit in what you've just said, but obviously I love the part in your book, or we love the part in your book where you mention about your vision board.
Yeah.
And you obviously clearly always set big goals for yourself, like launching your own makeup line. And in the book you say that you have to hum a tune before you can write a song, which I think is a great line. So considering everything that you've achieved, from wrestling to becoming a best-selling author, I just wondered sort of what is the next sort of tune that you're humming for your life?
So I am trying to dabble more in acting, and I'm really excited about it. I already have a role coming up that I can't talk about just yet, but like I do have a role coming up, and it's a big deal, and I'm really excited. And it's got a cast of like amazing people, which I was like, I would never thought I'd be amongst these people, even for a little bit. So it was like so I'm really excited about that, and I also have a pod show coming out at the end of March. Again, I don't know when this is released, but yeah, March 27th, and it's called Rule Breakers, and
Nice.
it's talking with mixed with jackass. So it's a little intense. It's really fun, and I was getting zapped so much the other day that I was drooling. That's how crazy it got. But yeah, it was. And we have, a freaking motley crew of characters that come on the show, and it's going to be really fun. And yeah, I make a big announcement on the first episode. And so I'm really excited for people to find out what the heck I'm doing, So yeah, I got the book,
awesome.
the pod show, Role Breakers, acting, and, I'm just going to take, 2025 to try and focus on that kind of stuff, like AEW doesn't need me right now. They're doing amazing. I wouldn't fit in anywhere right now. So I never want to take anyone's spot. So I'm like, and Tony's been really great with me, focusing on my book and doing everything I need to make it a success. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so just a little bit then on the plate, just a little bit. Honestly, thank you so much for taking the time. As we said, the book is absolutely fantastic. You're an absolute warrior, and we couldn't be prouder of you, to be honest. Before we let you go, could you just let everyone know, obviously, how they can get their copy of Hell in Boots and everything else that you've kind of got going on, where they can follow it?
Yeah, I mean, you can find it anywhere. The easiest place to get it, I would say, was Amazon. You can get it on there, but there's Simon & Schuster, there's Barnes & Noble, whatever bookstore you get your books from, it's going to be there. But I always say the easiest is Amazon because everyone has Amazon,
Yeah.
So go on there. There's also the audio version. I did do the audio too, so that was a lot of work. So get it because I worked hard on that. But yeah, if you don't like to read and you like to listen instead, we have that option. But yeah, I'm really excited for everyone to be able to get their hands on it and read it, and I hope people enjoy it.
They will.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.